In the heart of Nigeria, nested between the vast forests and flowing rivers, lay Idu, a village untouched by the chaos of the modern world. Idu was a serene community where everyone knew one another and life moved to the slow. The villagers worked their farms during the day, shared stories in the evening. However, like every village, Idu had its secrets, and none was more mysterious than the legend of the ghost cook. It all began with Mama Ayo, the best cook in it. She was a large, kind-hearted woman with a laugh that would brighten the darkest day. Her skills in the kitchen were unmatched. People came from neighboring villages just to taste her jollof rice, pounded yam and egusi soup. She was the village's treasure and everyone loved her. Every festival and wedding in the village bore the signature of her culinary magic. But as much as the village loved Mama Ayo, they noticed something strange about her. No one had ever seen her eat her own food. She would cook vast quantities, serve everyone with joy, and disappear before the first spoon was consumed. When asked why she never ate, she would simply laugh and say, "I cook for others, not for myself." One evening, during a particular lively village festival, Mama Ayo's house caught fire. The villagers rushed to the scene, forming a chain to douse the flames, but the fire was too fierce. When it finally subsided, Mama Ayo was nowhere to be found. Her house, once the heart of the village's culinary delights, had been reduced to ashes. The villagers mourned for days, unable to believe that their beloved cook was gone. But it wasn't long before strange things began to happen. A few weeks after the fire, the village woke up to the aroma of freshly cooked food, the tantalizing smell of jollof rice, fried plantains, and pepper soup wafted through the air. The villagers, confused and curious, followed the scent to the village square. To their astonishment, there was a large table set with a feast dishes that only Mama Ayo could make. But no one was around. The pots, pans, and dishes were there, steaming hot, yet there was no sign of who had prepared the food. At first, the villagers were wary. Who had cooked the food? Could it be poisoned? After all, no one had seen anyone near the square that morning. But the smell was irresistible, and hunger got the best of them. One by one, they took bites. To their amazement, it tasted just like Mama Ayo's cooking. It was her signature style, the perfect balance of spices, the tender meat, and the fluffy rice. It was as if she had returned from the dead to cook for them once again. Rumors quickly spread. Some said Mama Ayo's spirit was restless and that she was still cooking for the village even in death. Others whispered that she had made a pact with the spirit of the forest, exchanging her soul for external cooking abilities. Regardless of the story, one thing was clear. Every now and then, the village would wake up to a mysterious feast, and no one could explain how it had gotten there. As the months passed, the villagers grew accustomed to the ghostly meals. They began to rely on it, knowing that at least once a week, they would be greeted with a feast that required no work on their parts. It was always the same, food appearing at dawn, perfectly prepared and still warm. The mystery remained, but the villagers were no longer afraid. They believed Mama Ayo was watching over them, ensuring that no one in Idu went hungry. But not everyone was convinced that the ghost cooks present, Bisi, a young woman in the village, was different from the others. She had always been curious, and the unexpected event surrounding the ghost cook didn't sit well with her. While others enjoyed the meals without question, Bisi wanted to answers. She was determined to find out who or what was behind the mysterious feast. One night, Bisi stayed awake, hiding near the village square to see if she could catch the ghost cook in action. The moon was full, casting airy shadows across the square. The wind rustled the leaves, and the village was silent. As the hours passed, Bisi began to doubt her plan. Maybe there was no ghost cook. Maybe it was just a trick of the mind. Or perhaps the food was brought by someone from another village. Just as she was about to give up and return home, she heard a sound. It was faint, almost like a whisper, but it was there. She strained her ears, trying to locate the source. Then from the shadows, she saw movement. A figure dressed in white seemed to cloud towards the square. Bissi's heart raised. The figure moved gracefully. The figure reached the center of the square, and to Bissi's astonishment, pots and pans began to appear out of nowhere. One by one, ingredients materialized: yams, spices, vegetables, and meats. The figure moved swiftly, chopping, stirring, and frying. Its motions fluid and precise. Bissi couldn't believe her eyes. It was as if the figure was cooking for a grand feast, yet no one else was around to witness it. Summoning her courage, Bissi stepped out from her hiding place. "Who are you?" she called out, her voice trembling. "Are you Mama Ayo?" The figure paused, turning slowly towards her. For a moment, there was silence. Then, in a voice as soft as the wind, the figure replied, "I am what remains of Mama Ayo. My body may be gone, but my spirit lingers. I cook for those who are hungry, for that is my purpose." Bissi stepped closer, her fear giving way to curiosity. "Why do you continue to cook even after death? Why don't you move on?" The ghost of Mama Ayo sighed, her form shimmering in the moonlight. "In life, I found joy in feeding others. It was my gift, my way of giving back to the village. But when I died, I realized that there are still many in this world who suffer from hunger, not just physical hunger, but hunger of the soul. I remained to nourish them, to offer comfort through my food." Bissi frowned. "But isn't it wrong for the village to rely on you? They've become dependent on your ghostly meals. Shouldn't they learn to fend for themselves?" The ghost cook nodded slowly. "You're wise, Bissi. Indeed, the villagers have grown complacent. They no longer farm as they should, nor do they gather as community to prepare meals together. My gift has become a crutch." Bissi took a deep breath. "Then perhaps it's time for you to rest, Mama Ayo. You've done enough. Let the village learn to stand on its own again." For a moment, the ghost said nothing. Then with a sad smile, she whispered, "You may be right, child, but it will not be easy. The village has grown accustomed to the convenience of my meals. They will resist change. I will help them," Bissi said firmly. "I will teach them how to cook, how to farm, how to take care of one another. They don't need to depend on you anymore." The ghost of Mama Ayo looked at Bissi with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. "Very well," she said. "I will leave this place, but remember, child, that the hunger of the soul is not so easily satisfied. Teach them not to just to fill their bellies, but to feed their hearts with love, kindness, and community." With that, the ghost cook began to fade, her form dissolving into the night. Bissi stood alone in the village square, the lingering scent of freshly cooked food in the air. She felt a strange sense of peace wash over her, knowing that Mama Ayo's spirit could finally rest. The next morning, the villagers awoke to find the square empty. There was no food, no feast waiting for them. Confused and disappointed, they gathered in the square, wondering what had happened. Bissi stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "The ghost cook is gone," she announced. "Mama Ayo's spirit has moved on. It's time for us to take care of ourselves once again." There was a murmur of disbelief. Some villagers were upset, while others were simply confused. "But how will we eat?" one woman asked. "We've come to rely on those meals." Bissi smiled. "We will farm just as we used to. We will cook together as a community. Mama Ayo may be gone, but her legacy lives on in the receipts she left behind. We will honor her memory by feeding ourselves and each other. And so, under BC's guidance, the village began to change. They returned to their farms, planting yams, cassava, and maize. The sound of laughter and conversation once again filled the air as families gathered to cook meals together. The villagers learned not only to feed their bodies, but also to nurture their relationships with one another. As time passed, Idu village flourished. The legend of the ghost cook faded into memory, but the lessons she left behind endured. The villagers no longer relied on mysterious feasts to sustain them. Instead, they found strength in their community, their work, and their shared love of food. Bisi became the village's new cook,